restaurant was my idea. I picked it, I made the reservation, and I handed over my card at the end of the night without anyone asking me to. That part is important. Nobody asked. I just did it, the way I had always just done it, because that was the role I had somehow ended up in without ever agreeing to it out loud. I am 31 years old. I work in accounting for a mid-sized logistics company in Columbus, Ohio. I make $64,000 a year before taxes, which sounds like a lot, until you account for rent, utilities, groceries, student loans, and the $1,500 I had been sending home every single month for the past 4 years without missing once. My younger sister was getting married in June. The wedding was 8 weeks away. That Saturday night was supposed to be a celebration, a small family dinner to toast her engagement, to celebrate her fiancé officially joining the family, to have one of those nice evenings where everyone is dressed up and nobody is picking at each other. That was what I thought we were doing. I got there first. I always get there first. I had driven 40 minutes from my apartment, found parking 2 blocks away, and was already seated at the table with a glass of water when my parents arrived. Then my sister and her fiancé, then my brother and his girlfriend. 6 people total. I had chosen a place with white tablecloths and a pre-asphyxie menu because my mother had mentioned once that she wanted somewhere elegant for the occasion. The pre-asphyxie was $92 per person before drinks. I had done the math in the car. I knew what the night was going to cost me before I sat down. None of that bothered me at the time. I want to be clear about that. I was genuinely happy for my sister. She had been with her fiancé for 3 years, and he was kind to her in the specific way that matters. He listened when she talked. He remembered small things. He made her feel like she was worth paying attention to. I liked him. I was glad she was marrying him. I wanted the dinner to be nice. It started the way these things always start. Compliments about the restaurant, menus opened, water refilled, everyone talking over each other. My sister showed the table her ring again, even though we had all already seen it. My brother's girlfriend laughed too loudly at everything and kept touching his arm. My father ordered a bottle of wine without asking if anyone wanted to split it. Normal, family dinner chaos. Then my mother looked across the table at me and said, "So, any updates on your end?" That is the phrase she uses when she wants to ask whether I am dating anyone without sounding like she is asking whether I am dating anyone. I told her no, nothing new. She nodded in that particular way she has, not quite a smile, not quite a frown, and said, "You know your sister was 26 when she met him. You're running out of runway?" I was 31. My sister was 29. I did not point out that the math did not support whatever point she was trying to make. I picked up my water glass. My brother said, "She's too focused on work. Always has been." His girlfriend nodded like she knew anything about me at all. I let it go. I had been letting things go my whole life. It is a skill I developed early and refined through repetition. The dinner continued. Appetizers came. The conversation shifted to the wedding venue, guest list, flowers, whether the ceremony needed to start at 3 or 4. My sister wanted 4 because the lighting was better for photos. Her fiancé deferred to her on everything, which the table found charming. My father refilled his wine glass twice. My mother asked about catering costs, and my sister named a number that made my father whistle low under his breath. Then my mother looked at me and said, without any particular shift in tone, like it was a logistical detail and not a request she had never once verbalized directly, "You'll cover the deposit, right? Just until your father and I get things sorted out." The table went quiet for exactly 2 seconds. Not the kind of quiet where everyone is surprised. The kind of quiet where everyone already knew this was going to be said and was waiting to see how I reacted. I asked, "What deposit?" She told me. The venue required $1,500 to hold the date due in 10 days. $1,500. The exact amount I sent home every month. I said I would think about it. My father set down his wine glass. He did not raise his voice. He never raises his voice. He has a way of speaking that is measured and final at the same time, like a door closing quietly but with a lock that clicks. He said, "What is there to think about? Your sister is getting married. This is what families do." I said I understood that, but I had not budgeted for it and I would need to look at my finances before committing. My brother laughed. Not a mean laugh, exactly. More like the laugh you give when someone says something you think is absurd but you are trying to be polite about it. He said, "You work full-time, you live alone, what are you even spending money on?" I thought about the $1,500 I sent home every month. I thought about the $212 I had paid toward my brother's credit card debt 6 months ago when he called me in a panic because he was about to be sent to collections. I thought about the plane ticket I had bought my mother so she could visit her sister in Phoenix last Thanksgiving because she said she could not afford to go otherwise. I did not say any of that. I just said, I have expenses. I'll look at it. My sister and I want to be fair to her because I think she genuinely did not understand what she was doing. My sister reached across the table and put her hand on mine and said, I just really want this to be perfect. And I know you always come through. That sentence has lived in my head every day since. I know you always come through. Said with love. Said like a compliment. Said in a way that made it impossible to say no without being the person who ruined the evening. I smiled. I said I would figure it out. The table relaxed. The entrees arrived. My father ordered another glass of wine. After the food came, after everyone had settled into the second half of the meal, my brother's girlfriend leaned toward my sister and asked to see the ring again. My sister stretched her hand across the table. At some point, her phone was out. At some point, there were photos being taken. Then my brother said something to his girlfriend in a low voice and she made a face, surprised, a little delighted, and he said, louder, to the table, Show them? She looked uncertain for a moment. Then she reached across and took my phone off the table. My phone, which I had placed face down next to my water glass. She turned it over, opened it, because I had never set up a proper lock screen, which I have since corrected, found my banking app, which I had been using at a red light on the way over to check that a transfer had gone through, and held it up so the table could see my account balance. It was $411. It was $411 because it was 11 days before payday and I had just paid rent, sent my monthly transfer home, paid my electric bill and my car insurance and my student loan minimum, and bought 2 weeks of groceries. My brother laughed. My father looked at it and then looked at me with an expression that I recognized from childhood, not angry, just disappointed. Calibrating. My mother pressed her lips together. My sister looked away, and then my brother's girlfriend said, still holding up my phone, Oh wow, that explains a lot. I took my phone back. I placed it face down on the table again. My hands were steady. I did not understand at the time how my hands were steady. My mother said, Maybe we should have this conversation another time. But my father was already talking. He said he had assumed, given that I did not have a family of my own to support and did not own property and had a steady income, that I was in a better financial position than that. He said it in the voice of someone who was genuinely confused, not performing anger for the table, like he was doing math out loud and the numbers were not adding up. He said, Where is your money going? I thought about telling him. I thought about saying, It goes to you. It goes to the same place it has gone every month for 4 years. It goes to the account I set up a direct transfer to because you told me in 2021 that you were struggling with the mortgage and I said I would help. And then I never stopped, and you never once asked me to stop, or told me you were okay or said thank you. Instead, I said nothing. My brother said, Honestly, I don't know why you'd agree to the deposit if you're living like that, like I had volunteered. Like the last 20 minutes had not happened. And then my father, who had finished his third glass of wine, said this, and I am not paraphrasing. I have replayed it enough times to know it word for word. He said I had higher expectations for you. Of everyone, I expected you to have something to show by now. My sister looked at the table. Her fiancé looked at the ceiling. My brother's girlfriend took a long sip of her drink. I folded my napkin and placed it next to my plate. I picked up my purse. I left $400 in cash on the table, which was roughly my share of the bill, and I walked out. I did not make a speech. I did not cry in front of them. I got to my car, sat in it for 4 minutes, and then drove home. That night I did 2 things. The first thing I did was log into my bank account and canceled the automatic transfer I had set up 4 years ago. It took 40 seconds. I had set it up to transfer on the 15th of every month and I canceled it so that the next one, due in 4 days, would not go through. I sat there looking at the confirmation screen for a while. The second thing I did was call my friend Trisha, who I have known since college, who knows my family and has watched this dynamic from a careful distance for years. She picked up on the second ring. I told her what had happened. She listened. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. And then she said, "So what are you going to do?" I said I didn't know yet, but I knew I was not going to the wedding. I did not respond to any messages that week. There were messages. My mother sent 3, my sister sent 2, my brother sent 1 that said, "You're being dramatic," with no further context. I read them. I did not respond. The next week there were more. My mother shifted from casual to concerned. My sister shifted from confused to upset. My father did not message me at all, which told me more than any message would have. On day 11, my sister called. I let it go to voicemail. She left a message saying she needed to know about the deposit because the venue was going to release the date if they didn't hear back by Friday. She was not unkind. She sounded genuinely stressed. She said, "I don't understand what happened. Can you just call me?" I did not call her. On day 14, my mother called from a number I did not recognize, her friend's phone. I realized later, and I picked up without thinking. She said, "Something is wrong with your account." I asked what she meant. She said the transfer hadn't come through. She said they had been waiting, that it usually came on the 15th, and it was now the 18th, and nothing had happened, and had I forgotten? I said I had not forgotten. I said I had canceled it. There was a long silence. Then she said, "What do you mean you canceled it?" I said, "I mean I went into my account and canceled the automatic transfer. It won't be coming anymore." Another silence. And then, in a voice I had not heard from her before, not angry, something more like frightened, she said, "We depend on that." I know you do, I thought. That's the problem. I told her I was sorry she was in a difficult position. I told her I needed to focus on my own situation. I told her I loved her and I would talk to her when I was ready. And then I said goodbye and hung up. The messages after that were different. The tone shifted in the specific way it shifts when people realize something is actually changing and not just temporarily withheld. My brother left a voicemail saying I was being selfish. My mother left one saying she didn't raise me to abandon my family. My father, for the first time, sent a text. It said, "Call me. This has gone on long enough." That was day 19. By day 22, I had received 47 messages across calls, texts, and voicemails. I had not responded to any of them. I had been using that time, intentionally, practically, to do other things. I had applied for a transfer at work. My company has offices in 3 cities, and there is an open position in the Nashville branch at my same level with a small salary bump. I applied on day 4, had a call with the hiring manager on day 12, and received a verbal offer on day 20. I accepted it that afternoon. My official start date was 7 weeks out. I had also spent 2 Saturdays visiting apartments virtually, and on the 3rd Saturday I had driven to Nashville for the weekend and seen 4 in person. I signed a lease on a 1-bedroom in a neighborhood called East Nashville that had good light and a parking spot included, and a landlord who did not require a co-signer. Nobody in my family knew any of this. On day 28, I was in the middle of packing my books into boxes when my sister showed up at my apartment. She had driven from our parents' house, which is 40 minutes in the other direction. She knocked for a while and then texted me that she was outside. I looked at the text. I did not answer the door. Later, she left a long voicemail. She said she didn't understand what she had done. She said the deposit had never been paid, and the venue had released the date, and they were trying to find somewhere else, and everything was a disaster. She said she knew Mom and Dad weren't perfect, and she knew the dinner had been bad, but she was the one getting married, and she was the one whose plans were falling apart and couldn't. I just come home and talk. I listened to the voicemail twice. I felt genuinely sad for my sister. I want to be honest about that. She was not the one who said what my father said. She was not the one who picked up my phone and showed the table my bank account. She was getting married, and she was scared, and she was caught between people she loved, and I understood that. But I also understood that she had spent 4 years knowing roughly what the arrangement in our family was and had never once said anything. Not a thank you on my behalf. Not a "that doesn't seem fair." Just the assumption, built in quietly and never examined, that I would come through. I sent her a text. It said, "I love you and I hope the wedding is everything you want it to be. I can't be there. I need some time. I'm okay." She called twice after that. I did not answer. My last day in Columbus was a Tuesday. I had given notice at my apartment, arranged for my things to be picked up by a moving pod company that would deliver everything to Nashville 4 days later, And I had spent the previous weekend saying goodbye to Trisha over dinner at a Thai place we had been going to since 2019. She walked me to my car and hugged me for a long time and said she was proud of me, and I had to breathe through my nose for a minute before I could get in and drive away without making a scene. I did not tell my family I was leaving. Not the specific date, not the city, not anything. I had updated my address with the IRS, with my HR department, with my bank, with my doctors. I had done everything practical and correct. I had just not told them. The morning I drove out of my apartment complex parking lot for the last time, my phone had 7 unread messages and 2 missed calls. I did not check them until I had cleared the city limits and merged onto 71 South. I pulled over at a rest stop somewhere in Kentucky and sat with the engine running and the heat on and read every one. My father, this is not how I raised you. My mother, the mortgage payment bounced. Please call. My brother, you're really going to let them lose the house over your feelings? My father again? I don't know what I said that was so unforgivable. My sister? I just want my sister at my wedding. That's all. My mother, please. My brother, wow. I sat with those for a while. Not in an anguished way, more in the way you sit with something you have known for a long time and are finally allowing yourself to fully look at. The mortgage had apparently been partially covered by my transfers. I had not known that specifically. I had known I was helping. I had not known the help had become structural. I thought about driving back. I thought about it in the way you think about things when you already know you are not going to do them, but you want to be honest with yourself about the fact that you considered it. I thought about what it would look like. Me reversing course, showing up, resuming the transfer, paying the deposit, going to the wedding, standing in a bridesmaid dress with my hands folded while my father made a toast. I thought about what would be different if I went back. Nothing. That was the answer. Nothing would be different. I pulled back onto the highway. I have been in Nashville for 3 months now. My apartment has good light. I have found a grocery store I like and a coffee shop within walking distance where the barista knows my order. I have made one friend so far, a woman named Audra from my new office who has strong opinions about hiking trails and makes me laugh. I have started putting the $1,500 a month that used to go home into a savings account instead. It has been accumulating quietly, like something I forgot I was allowed to have. My sister got married in June. I was not there. I found out through Trisha, who was not invited but saw the photos on social media. My sister looked beautiful. I hope she was happy that day. I genuinely mean that. My parents lost the house. Trisha told me that too, carefully, like she was not sure how I would take it. The mortgage had gone into arrears faster than they expected, and they had moved in with my aunt, my mother's sister, who lives about 20 minutes from where I grew up. I don't know what their plan is after that. My brother texted me once in April. It said, "You really messed things up." I read it and put my phone down and made myself a cup of tea. My father has not contacted me since the morning I left. That silence has its own particular weight. I'm still learning how to carry it. There are things I am still working out. Whether I will go back for holidays, whether I will eventually talk to my sister, whether the version of my family that exists in my memory, birthday mornings, road trips, the specific smell of my mother's kitchen at Christmas, whether that version is worth grieving separately from the people who were at that table. I think it might be. I think you can love a family and also understand that the way you were living inside of it was slowly taking everything from you, and both of those things can be true at the same time. What I know is this. I sat at a dinner table and watched someone hold up my bank account like a punchline, and the table laughed, and the man who raised me looked at the number and said he had expected more from me. And that night I went home and canceled a transfer that I had been making, faithfully every single month for 4 years. And then I packed my books into boxes. That is the whole story. There is no twist. There is no reconciliation scene. There is just a 1-bedroom apartment in East Nashville with good light in the mornings and a savings account that is growing, and a cup of tea going cold on the counter while I figure out what I am allowed to want next. Tell me, what time is it where you are right now? I have thought a lot about what my father said that night, not the part that was cruel. That part I understood immediately in the moment, the way you understand something when it lands directly on a bruise you did not know was there. The part I keep returning to is the word expected. He said he had expected more from me, and I think for a long time I had been living inside that expectation without ever examining it, without ever asking whether it was fair or even logical, without ever noticing that I had organized my entire financial life around proving something to someone who had already decided the verdict. That is the thing about being the responsible one in a family. Nobody hands you the role. It accumulates. 1 month you help because there is a real emergency. The next month you help because the emergency did not fully resolve. 3 years later, you are sending $1,500 a month on a fixed schedule, and nobody is calling it help anymore. It has become infrastructure. It has become load-bearing, and the people depending on it have stopped thinking of it as a gift and started thinking of it as a given, which means they have also stopped thinking of you as a person making a choice and started thinking of you as a system that runs in the background. I was a system. I was running in the background. And the night my brother's girlfriend held up my phone and the table laughed, I finally understood that being useful had not made me valued. It had just made me useful. There is a version of this story where I call it karma, where I say the universe balanced the ledger and everyone got what they deserved. I do not believe that. I think what actually happened is simpler and less poetic. My family built their stability on a foundation they did not pay for and did not maintain, and when the foundation was removed, the structure failed. That is not cosmic justice. That is just physics. What I had to learn, what took me embarrassingly long to understand, is that intelligence without self-respect is just competence in service of other people's comfort. I was good at my job. I was reliable. I was organized. I managed my finances well enough to consistently send money home while keeping myself afloat. None of that protected me because I had never turned any of it inward. I had never asked what I wanted, what I needed, what I was building toward. I was 31 years old, and I had $411 in a savings account I had never once contributed to because everything went somewhere else. Trisha asked me once, years before any of this happened, why I kept doing it. I told her it was because I loved my family. She said that was not an answer. I did not understand what she meant then. I do now. Love is not the same as obligation, and obligation is not the same as choice, and choice is the only one of those three that belongs to you. I am not the same person who drove out of Columbus with 7 unread messages and 2 missed calls. I am someone who has a savings account growing quietly and an apartment with good light and a friend named Audra who makes me laugh on hard days. I am someone who made one decision, 1 transfer canceled, 40 seconds, a confirmation screen, and discovered that the life I was allowed to want had been there the whole time. I had just been sending it somewhere else.